Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5, Activating Starseeds, Walkins, and the New Human of the Golden Age. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Melissa Feick. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, Waxela. Thank you so much for inviting me here today.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you back. This is actually Melissa's second time on the Alchemy of Ascension, and there's never a dull moment. So we'll have lots of fun. But first, I'd love to invite everyone to join us in a short alignment process so that we can all get focused and present for this conversation today. So just begin by closing your eyes and deepening your breath. And with every breath, allow yourself to relax and sink in to your body. And as you're deepening your relaxation and your breath, tune into the heart center, getting in touch with the light in your heart. And then feel that heart light expanding and moving and extending up through the crown of your head, all the way up into central sun, making contact with the heart energy of central sun and bringing that energy down to the top of the head, through every energy center to the base of the spine, and then all the way down, continuing down into the center, the heart center of Mother Earth. And then feel that heart energy, Mother Gaia, moving up, coming up into the base of your spine, up through every energy center, and then joining in your heart center, joining with the light from above, the light below, and the light within, creating this holy trinity of light surrounding and protecting you. And in this light, I invite you to receive whatever is for your highest good today. And with that, come on back. And thank you for doing that process with me. I always feel more present after that. And now I'm going to share a little bit about what Melissa's up to in the world. Melissa Feick is a writer and advanced intuitive who leads metaphysical workshops and spiritual retreats, providing people with a path to their authentic self. She is the best-selling author of A Radical Approach to the Akashic Records, Master Your Life, Raise Your Vibration, and creator of Activating Ascension classes and Akashic Records Certifications, taught through her Spiritual Expansion Academy. Melissa guides her students to experience their multidimensional self through high-frequency activations and deep metaphysical classes. She lives her life being guided and supports those experiencing their individual great awakening, which we all are, right? Welcome, Melissa. Thank you for that. And it's just so lovely to have you again.
Yeah, I love doing your summits. You're amazing, and you're very talented and amazing. I can't even tell you. I appreciate you so much.
Well, that feeling is mutual. I appreciate you too, which is why I keep having you back. And so because this one's all about starseeds and walk-ins, I would love to just start there and get your take. And also hybrids. So we haven't talked a lot yet about hybrids, but I'd love to have you explain kind of your perception or concept of what are starseeds, what are walk-ins and hybrids, and just kind of unpack that for us.
Okay, so for me, this is just what I'm aware of now. Those things can always change. So my definitions or my perceptions of these things have changed over the last 20 years even. Let's start with walk-ins. The first time I ever heard of a walk-in, I thought, "Oh, that seems silly that someone would take over someone else's life." But then as I grew and I understood the universe a little bit better, I thought, oh, wow. So there must be an agreement, and this is my perception. There's got to be an agreement on the other side, even before they incarnate, that this is a possibility. And I think that from what I understand and speaking to people who have experienced this, that part of their soul, I think that they are part of the same soul family or group, and that they kind of thought, okay, you do the first half, I'll do the second half, and we'll get this whole thing worked out. But then I think that there are times that people actually leave their body through a traumatic experience, and they agree through the transition time, instead of letting the body transition, that somebody comes in, then another soul takes the place. And it kind of sounds like possession, but I think that the physicality, remember, our physical being does have a consciousness. And when a new soul comes in to the physicality, that consciousness of the physicality may feel a little uneasy. And so it has to calibrate with this new soul being, because I believe that the soul of the being, right? So we are animals, right? Our physicality is an animal. And when a new soul comes in a walk in, the physicality may have some issues, not like huge issues, but feeling a little like something's off, something isn't right in here. And that person who is the walk in has to calibrate with the human self. See, when we do this as babies, the physicality, the human consciousness, let's call it, has time to recalibrate. So, what I have seen is that there are times that the walk in usually comes in at a higher vibration and a higher awareness. And it gives its time to the physicality, but there is a merging that has to happen and an agreement of the physical being. And that's where I think a lot of walk ins don't talk about, is they don't talk about like the agreement of the animal physicality as well, because there has to be an agreement, not just between souls, but in the human self itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point because, yes, our body is conscious. It has its own kind of thing going on, and that integration is essential. Um, Oftentimes, also, too, like you said, when there's a full soul exchange and one soul is leaving to go to the other side, that new walk-in soul has to integrate in a way that it can function in that body. And oftentimes too, that body will be either diseased or severely compromised. And many walk-ins, because they are, as you said, from the higher frequency, are able to heal a body quite quickly. I've seen that happen many times with people, and it's really impressive. There's also a lot of stuff to deal with. Sometimes it's like a traumatic head injury or brain injury when someone goes that way. So there's a lot to calibrate. But that's certainly, it's an interesting thing to think about how that full soul exchange can happen. And there are other ways, I'm sure, too, like where with the soul braids and things. But thank you for breaking that down.
Yeah, that was just a different perspective than I've heard. And that's what my guidance was telling me. So, yeah, let's talk about star seeds.
Yeah,
That's what I want to go into next. Is that okay?
absolutely.
Okay. So, of course, star seeds, we talk a lot about star seeds, and many spiritual aspirants feel that they are star seeds, meaning that they're part of the galactic understanding. So, to me, a star seed is someone who has incarnated on other planetary systems. And this isn't the only planetary system that they have incarnated in, or they haven't in a long time. So, I know for me, although I've incarnated here, there was a time period where I wasn't on this planetary system for a while, and then I came back again. And, time and space, we could incarnate 1,000 years from now on this earth plane, whatever it's going to be then. Um, and then the next lifetime, we could incarnate somewhere else. So I don't think it's not as linear as our minds want to make it. So time and space aren't a linear experience. So I think a lot of star seeds, especially those who have incarnated in the last like 50, 60 years, they have come here already experienced the other realms and came with a lot of that knowledge, whether it was dormant or not. In the beginning, doesn't matter. That knowledge is already there. And they are here to usher in the ascension, in the awakening that's happening. And because we came from a higher frequency, and that's what I think a star seed really is. It's someone who came from a higher dimension and through the law of one, right, a higher density, a different density. And because of that, we come here with a understanding and wisdom beyond the earth plane. And it isn't about, for me, what I've realized through the years is it's not about, oh, I'm Palladian or I'm Lyran. It's not about that. It's about what's the wisdom that I'm gaining from those places. Because honestly, I see myself, I've been many, and I'm sure you have too. Like I'm not just Arcturian. I'm not just Lyran. I'm kind of a hybrid into all of that. And I've experienced many, let's say lifetimes, but it's more than lifetimes. See, lifetimes feels like such a limited word, but so many star seeds are expansive awareness and collective consciousnesses. And then they've realized that, oh, I've got to come back and experience this earth plane again to help the awakening. And that means that I'm going to be separate from my collective, which is why so many star seeds feel so alone and feel so disconnected. And it's because many of us came from a collective consciousness awareness. And that's why so many star seeds do actually channel collectives more than individual beings, like one ascended master. And because those star seeds, it's so much more than just like bringing in the awareness of being Palladian. It's about bringing in the full wisdom and embodying that wisdom to help usher in this ascension. And we knew that we may actually gain some karmic patterns that we kind of transcended in the past, which is why some of us came with and incarnated in families with, let's say, some tumultuous karmic patterns. And I don't mean karma like, oh, you're going to have to live over and over again. To me, a karmic pattern is a more of a human patterns, like abuse, like, disconnect, all of that. So does that make sense how I see it more as a collective wisdom that we're bringing in through the ascension?
Yeah, I love the way you described that. That was really comprehensive. And you started out with saying, they're quite often that knowledge or remembrance is dormant. And I really think this point in time where we're at in our earth journey is where lots of starseeds are waking up. People are remembering. And in that remembering, like you said, it's so important not to get too attached to like, oh, I remember I'm from Sirius. I remember I'm, from here or there, from wherever, because as we expand in our consciousness and our awareness, more memories might drop in. And we've, like you said, I think we have been and we are so many different races, and we've come from so many different places that each one of us connected to our collective is really able to pull energy and memories from many different starseed places or awarenesses.
Right. And from our collective. So
Mhm.
if we came from a collective consciousness, we are also bringing in the wisdom of all the other collective beings that have experienced other realms, other planetary systems. So we're not just bringing in our own individual wisdom, but there's a collective wisdom. And because we're moving into the age of Aquarius, that collective wisdom is where the gold is. That's where the prime opportunity for transformation and for evolution of the human.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a really exciting time that way. And I do love that you're bringing in collective, because we are all, I think, no matter who we are, we have a soul collective. And that's where, they say we have a twin flame, 12 soulmates, and 144 soul family. And then that just, each of those are connected to more. And the number 144 keeps coming up for me too, interestingly. But I love that you just connected us to that collective. I know many of us are also connected to councils of light or galactic councils that are, again, a collective of awareness or consciousness that we can share from and tap into. And we're really never alone, but it sure does feel like it in these physical bodies sometimes.
Yeah, that's part of the human experience. That's why on this is a unique experience, because this is one of the few places, and there are many other Earth-like experiences out there. This isn't super unique where it's the only one, but it is unique that because we usually live in higher frequencies, and this is such a dense time-based energy. It's different. And it's not good or bad, it's just different. And when we choose, and this is what a lot of star seeds do, is like, we're like, okay, you know what? We're going to go there. We're just going to do it. And we know that we might get caught up in some of the earthly things that we kind of transcended in the past. And that is a huge act of service. And that's what I feel like everybody should really take on. If you sense that you are a star seed, then recognize you're here to be of service. That service comes from love, from heart connection, from the energy of oneness. And it's not about what you do, it's who you're being while you're doing. So, who are you being? How are you being of service? You can be of service and work for a government, because it's not about what you're doing, it's who you're being while you're doing it. And that's where a lot of people, especially star seeds, they kind of trip up because they feel like, okay, I have to be in this box. And I'm like, well, I didn't come here to be in a box. I wouldn't be a star seed and be in any box. I am here to be of service, and don't try to be like someone else. Be your unique self in service, and let it unfold how that is for you, instead of trying to find it or wish it was there or chase it, right? 'Cause so many people chase, thinking if I chase it, I'll get it. And then I'll feel better. Then I'll feel more connected. I'll feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But in reality, you already are doing what you're supposed to do. And there is no supposed to, but don't put yourself in a box. Let the universe show you what's in alignment.
Mm. I love that you brought the heart into it, and the service, and just being here and being open. And absolutely, no matter what someone's doing, no matter what your job is, there's a way. And we need people in, like you said, government jobs, or maybe even corporate jobs, to to be able to be tuned into the heart so that they can share from there. So it's not always about, a lot of starseeds wake up and say, oh, now I need to be a light worker. And maybe that's true a lot of the time, but a lot of the time it's no, just be who you are, where you are. And if that's working, then absolutely it's not, I love it's about who you're being, whatever you're doing. And that is powerful. And then the boxes, we're definitely not here to be in a box. We're here to break the boxes,
Yeah,
to
I don't do
unpackage those
well.
boxes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
don't do well with people telling me what to do, although I follow a lot of rules because it's just easier in life, But I also need my freedom, and that's where a lot of star seeds, most of them need freedom. They need to feel a little freer because if they feel like they're being too boxed in, they'll feel trapped. We're used to being this expansive consciousness. And when we feel trapped, we actually start fighting something that's not even there. So, if you feel trapped, ask yourself, where am I trapped? And look for how can I feel more freedom in that?
Mm. Yeah, really good point. I mean, many, many star seeds come from such expanded consciousness that it's hard to even fit in one of these human bodies. And I remember my daughter when she was born, she was so tiny, and I could just see her struggle with her fitting in her tiny little body that couldn't walk yet. She was so much happier once she could walk. But I remember she would just cry and cry and cry. Like she hated being a baby. She's like, I'm just too big for this outfit, it just doesn't fit. And
Yeah.
I think that is, the plight of an ascended consciousness or a collective waking up its awareness to itself and like, okay, how do I fit in this body? And there's a lot of starseed and light workers and walk-ins that like desire to get out, don't you think? Like desire to be out of body, which really isn't helping.
No, because why would we come here in a human body if we just are leaving the body? Because actually, what I was shown many years ago is that, and I'm sure you know the same exact thing that I'm going to say, but in order to really bring through this higher wisdom that so many star seeds are here to bring through, they've got to bring it through, but they have to ground it in. And like you are very grounded, and that's why you can talk about these really expressive, expansive, galactic understandings and wisdom and bring it in is because you're grounded, because you've worked on those lower chakras. And bringing in the wisdom and grounding it is what we are here to do. If we're just floating away, then we are missing the beauty of the life of being human. And there are so many amazing things, especially when you really learn to create and you're really manifesting really quickly. That is awesome because you're bringing the wisdom, grounding it in, experiencing it. Having the wisdom, bringing it in, grounding it in, and experiencing it, meaning manifesting.
Yes, what a good point. And thank you for that acknowledgement. And I know you're very grounded as well. And, I think and it wasn't always that way for me. I certainly have had my ungrounded times. And for many people, it's a real challenge to anchor the light into the body, ground it, be able to hold it, expand our frequency and expand the container, right? That we're able to hold. And for a lot of people that can be a challenge, but also such a great service once you take that on, because then you're not only able to hold that energy, but you're uplifting the planet. You're like a walking ascension provider or activator when you hold the energy in the body, and it feels better to be in the body then too.
Yeah. Well, I think that what happens is that a lot of star seeds had difficult experiences in their life and they're traumatized, their body's traumatized. So they leave their body. But when they bring in more light and activations, those light code energies, they fill the cells with light. And then the person's like, oh, they kind of exhale and they're like, oh, yeah, I remember this. Oh, this feels so much better than the trauma energy. And again, it's very, it can be difficult, but it can be empowering as well when you realize that you are not a victim to this world. And that's empowering.
Yeah. Yeah. Being empowered in your presence is amazing. And that's when service really, I think, is possible. As long as we have victim mentality, we're not really serving anyone.
No. And sometimes it will come up more, like every once in a while, you're like, okay, I feel less victim. And then, oh, there it is again. And then you go, oh, okay, I'm playing the victim. That's a nice role, but ego, I'm still anchoring in my higher consciousness. I'm still being of the light. And I recognize that that is part of the human experience. So that's the the reason we fall into victimization is because it's such a human experience, but we're not destined to be that. And that's why the awakening, it is pushing us or guiding us, right? Never a push, but a guidance toward the awakening. And it's just happening faster and faster. What was a possible 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, is so much different than it's possible today because the human collective is raising its vibration. The earth plane is raising her vibration. And more beings are being incarnated here that are not just star seeds, but the hybrids as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Tell us about hybrids. What is a hybrid?
Okay, so first I want to say I am not a hybrid expert. It's just my fascination and my understanding that I've channeled. So I want to just make sure everybody knows that. I am not a hybrid. I definitely came here as a star seed because I was planted here and I chose to be human. Hybrids are more of a more current experience, although they've been there's always been hybrids. A hybrid can be even someone from the fairy realm who chooses to incarnate as a human and notice that they have a lot of fairy characteristics. So a hybrid doesn't just mean galactic, to me anyway. It can also be someone who is other realms. Okay. But I think the hybrids nowadays are actually our human and galactic seedings, meaning that although they came from human parents, and I'm not talking about like how we were genetically engineered through millennia, through from star seed, that I don't mean that kind of seeding. I mean that they came here bringing in their full wisdom of their galactic self, and they actually have the seeds, or like we are sperm and egg, so you consider them seeds, but they actually have seeds from their other planetary experiences. And my other understanding of that is that these hybrids come with a full range of knowledge. And a lot of their knowledge isn't very dormant. A lot of it's they're aware of. So they're usually not at my age group, meaning that I've been around for quite a while. So they're not somebody who is of my age group. Usually they're like in their 20s, maybe some 30s, but usually 20 and younger, in their 20s and younger. And there are not as many of them. There are a lot more star seeds than there are hybrids, but the hybrids are able to start incarnating, and I'm just receiving this now. They're starting to be able to incarnate at this time more so because the frequency is more conducive to allow them. So they are actually, let's say, alien, but they are a galactic being, meaning they have incarnated and they have been a complete being on another planetary system and a human together. So they are a hybrid. Um, and what so how I'm going to explain this is kind of like how we do we seed an egg with a sperm nowadays, um, in a petri dish, but it's kind of like that, but not quite. But they have come here and they have brought in their full awareness of their other planetary being, and they may even look different. They have the ability to read glyphs and other keys that we receive as starseeds through the light codes. They already have it encoded in their DNA system. So they will write a lot of times the glyphs of their planetary experiences. And they are also here to usher in this awareness, but they're also helping us for what some people may call the disclosure, where the other planetary beings will start coming here more again. But I don't see that happening currently, but eventually it will happen. And they're not giving me a time frame, so who knows? But they're also here for that. And obviously, they hold a higher frequency. And children are also being born right now as hybrids, but they definitely are being born as star seeds. So I want to just re-emphasize that one is not better than the other, because that's what a lot of spiritual aspirants, what they'll do is they'll go, oh, well, I think being a hybrid is more cool, so I want to be a hybrid, but maybe they're starseed. Don't get distracted by the shiny object, because we're all here, whether hybrid, starseed, walk-in, we're all here for the same reason, to usher in the ascension. That's it. And be unique to yourself and honor yourself through it. So to me, a hybrid is really holding the galactic starseed, the galactic energy, and it's different than a starseed. I hope I explained that well enough. If you have any questions, I'm sure they'll help answer some of that.
Yeah, I loved that, Melissa. Thank you. That was a really comprehensive way to explain. And of course, there's endless amounts of information about what it is, but I like that you made it digestible, and I feel like that was somewhat easy to understand. And also, I like that you bring in let's be non-judgmental in all of it, because also there's well, whenever we identify too much with anything, that can take us off mission, or even into judgment, and self-judgment and things like that. So it's always good to approach this as non-judgmental. And there are earth beings too that are 100% here to assist in the ascension process as well, that maybe don't identify as any of these things, star seeds or walk-ins or hybrids. So there's such an interesting realm of conscious beings just in the human bodies.
Yeah, because we actually signed up to come here at this time. Whether you are a muggle and have no idea of the magical possibilities, or you are a complete hybrid, or a walk-in, or a starseed, none of it matters. We're all here at the same time for a reason. It's really part of a divine plan. And I think that seeing people and putting them in boxes really does build the spiritual ego. And I think that it's good for us to constantly be aware that being human, there's an ego component to it. And the more we are aware of that, the more we will and transcend some of that. And it's not always easy. I just caught my spiritual ego yesterday, and I was like, Oh, yeah, right, dude. No, nope, nope. That is not me. I'm choosing my higher consciousness. And I always say I choose my higher consciousness and go back into my heart because it's just my ego playing with me. And I just have to go, no, and just be like, very, like you do with a child, be very clear of the boundary. No, because it's easy to get caught up in that judgment and that, oh, there are those people here and those people here. And no, we're all trying to do the best we can. And this is a very interesting time because there's a lot of movement of energy, and the duality is really hitting us in the face. And that will activate sometimes our ego or spiritual ego because the duality is what charges that part of us.
Mm. Yeah, that was so interesting. Right when you said that, I heard a tone in my left ear. I'm like, what's going on over there? Yes, and it's so good to be aware of what does trigger us and just bring consciousness, not judgment to it. But like, oh, look at that. Look how, I'm getting triggered or I'm getting inflated or deflated by something. And we're also, in this, while we're in the third dimension, we're still at effect to some degree of the culture, which promotes ego. It just does. And victimization and fear and all of those things. So the more conscious awareness we can bring and sort of detach gently from those things, the easier it will be to hold our light and serve.
Yeah. Well, the more attachment is part of the earth plane again. So we become very attached on when we are in these higher states of consciousness and in our expanded expression and understanding that part of us, we're not attached to anything. But the moment we become more aware of the physicality, we're like, oh, I don't have that. That's not what I have. I need that. And whether it's a physical need, an emotional need, a mental need, it doesn't matter. But again, it's just part of that attachment's part of our experience here, right? It's just an experience. That's all this is. There's no testing, no lessons, just an experience. And the less attached we are actually to the relationships, that's what I found is that the less attached I am to relationships, the more I am in my higher consciousness. And when I'm attached to a relationship, especially with children, you have children too. When you have children, that attachment is very different to a lot of other relationships. And when I've really started to detach from those relationships, it has been a game changer for me because I'm not as um, yeah, attached. I don't know what else to use. But then I'm more in my higher consciousness and I see it more as an observer than as, oh, what you do matters to me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky.
Tricky.
Relationships of all sorts are tricky. And yeah, I know definitely as a parent, I've always felt like it's so important to honor my child's path and let them evolve in the way that's right for them without inserting too much. But then on the other hand, there's this cultivating certain ways of being that work. It's always a fine line and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every child's different too.
So different. So different.
Yeah.
And I love that you give them the freedom of being who they are and expressing themselves. But, you know, on the human realm, if something got messed up, oh well, they'll just have to figure it out like the rest of us have, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect, and the beauty of it is that we're so connected when we allow ourselves, when we are open to it, not even allow, when we are open to it. And that's what I always want to encourage people to do. Don't look outside of yourself for love, for connection, for feeling good about yourself, or even what you desire in your life. Always know that outside isn't what's going to bring you to your heart center, to your higher consciousness, to connection and love. And that's so important for us to recognize because, again, because we're human, we're going, oh, well, what about that over there? And what about that over there? But that's not going to bring you back to yourself.
Yeah, so many distractions. And yeah, sometimes just taking a deep breath, focusing inward, closing our eyes, that can change, that changes the whole perspective. So that's a great reminder to take those moments to tune in and get present. I want to change gears a little bit. I know you always have these beautiful sacred geometry pictures behind you. And I'm so attracted to sacred geometry as well. You you tell us about, okay, so you do DNA light code, is it activations? And how do sacred geometric activations change your DNA? I guess that's the question.
Okay. So I'm going to say that I don't do the activations, but they have shown me what they are. So basically, how I'll just tell you how I was shown and what it is for me. Um, so what they showed me is that our matrix that we create on the human realm, right? This experience here is just a matrix of sacred geometric frequencies that have a coherent energy. And they are made of, it's more than three-dimensional, although in our minds it's easier to see it like that. So we'll just talk from 3D experience. These energy shapes, like, right, a picture is flat, but this is a very moving energy. So it's a consistent movement of energy. And these energies that come through, let's say a Merkaba. So a Merkaba, or let's just take this picture here because it's just easy to see because I don't have a Merkaba. My Merkaba's in the other room. But there are energy codes that go through them. So let's say it's like a line, just for ease of human understanding. So through that line is the sheath. Now the sheath may spiral, it may intertwine with other sheaths, but it's a kind of like a tube-like energy, and the codes move through them. And then they activate different codexes. And the codex, each codex holds different frequencies, and they have codes, just like a computer code. And these codes, when they come through the photon energy, through these sacred geometric frequencies, they can activate the mental, physical, emotional bodies and the DNA and even our genetic line. So they activate a lot of times the dormancy. So some of the wisdom, I know, I'll give you for an example for myself, some of the wisdom that I've received through the years is wisdom that was already encoded in my DNA when I came here as a starseed, but these codes activated. So it was an activation. And then sometimes it's a full download of something. Like for my book, I got literally a full download of what it was. And, I did have to unpack it in the human realm a little bit, but I knew immediately. My second book that I'm writing right now, literally, I had a whole download immediately. And I did the whole outline that morning, like literally the whole outline. And so these light codes, now this is the interesting thing. So we have the matrix here of all the sacred geometric that create our matrix, our experience here. And then we have another one that creates the galactic experience. And then we have another one that's beyond our universe, and then in dimensions and beyond and beyond. So it's the fractal within a fractal within a fractal, and a fractal is just a piece of the whole, right? So these sacred geometric energies are fractals within fractals, and then within the whole. And what's happening is that, sorry, this is a long explanation, but what's happening is our matrix is being activated with these galactic light frequencies. And those light frequencies are also being activated through the dimensions. But our matrix is ready for new activations. And as that's being activated, so the earth plane, the earth, she's going through her ascension through those activations. And then we are also experiencing those activations. And they can come through not just in meditations and specific meditations, they can also come through the light frequencies from the sun as well. And when I'm doing these meditations, these what they call themselves the Ascension Councils. And there were, when I saw them, there were, from what I understood, like thousands of councils, and more are being brought in. So we've gone from individual councils and those who are starseeds and who've come here to usher in this huge awakening, like people like you, Waxela. We work with these collective consciousness councils, and there are thousands of them, and they are helping activate. And what I have seen is when groups come together and experience the activation, it is a different type of activation than when I experience it individual. So that's the longer explanation. Sorry if it was kind of long.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh, that was so. And I'm clairvoyant. I was seeing the most gorgeous images as you were speaking, and I really felt that your words were transferring that. Some people are going to pick it up visually, some people will pick it up emotionally, or feel it, or just have like knowing downloads. But what you said there was a beautiful transmission of light code energy. So thank you for that. That was just the most lovely description.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
that's what
you.
they've told me is when we, even when I talk about it, it does activate us.
Yeah.
And there is no time and space. So if I do a meditation and people listen to it later, they're being activated because this meditation was done in a group energy, and we're connected because we're all entangled, right? Quantum entanglement. In quantum mechanics, they talk about how we're all entangled. It doesn't matter what time or space it is.
Yeah.
But we are ready to come together as groups and really experiencing these activations. It's exciting for me.
Yeah, me too. I love it. I'm looking at the time. I can't believe how fast the time is flying. It's just like I felt like we went into kind of like another realm there for a minute, and I'm like, whoa. But as we're coming to the end, I want to make sure that we get to share. You have a wonderful free gift, Awakening to the Golden Age. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah. So this is a chakra activation. So it was actually done in a group, and reason that I use those meditations is because the group energy is already entangled in it. So when you experience it in your own home with your own headphones, preferably, with the music and all the activations, you experience it. So it's all about activating some dormant light codes within the chakra system, which is really important to help us activate and expand. And then I also have an explanation of the ascension. So I give a little bit more um, explanation of what the ascension is.
Ooh, wonderful. Yeah, we'll have the links in the show notes so everyone can go get that. And also you have a paid offer. It's $147 and it's a multi-course portal with all of the practical and energetic tools you need to accelerate your ascension. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so I put this together just for your summit. So
Wonderful.
this is a accumulation of a lot of some of my favorite things, and some of it I don't even have out there. It's for private clients only. So the first thing is like an ascension like code blueprint activation. And this has 3 classes. So, videos, 3 videos, I should say. And it's all about the ascension and all about activating these light code energies and exactly what gets encoded. And then 3 meditations with that are hugely activating and really bring people to a whole new realm. And a lot of people may have experienced that because as soon as I start tapping into these light code energies, it just spirals in. It just happens. And honestly, I think that I have to say that it's not me who's doing it. I'm just, I just get to experience with you. And then I also part of that. So that was one part of the series that I have. The other one is this chakra healing. It's all about deep healing. So it's actually going into the shadow of each chakra system. And it's very advanced. And I know a lot of people be like, oh, I've been there, done that. And then they do this course and they're like, whoa, that was a lot deeper than I thought. Because I really take the practicality of the shadow within each chakra. And then we also have a meditation to transcend those chakras. And then I have 2 pineal third eye activations. One is a pineal gland activation, and one is with the third eye telepathy activation. So that is super cool. And then I also have Awakening Your Intuition, which is one of my best intuitive. And this is something that I've sold in the past, but I actually took out and I haven't really offered it in a while. But I love it because it's really deep into some of the best work I've done with intuition. And I've been teaching intuition for 20 years. And then Violet Flame, which is always important because the violet flame. So this is another one. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 7 of them. Sorry, but I wanted to really give a lot. So the violet flame is all about moving energy and transcending the shadow. And then the other one is manifesting money and clients on the Akashic Records on the quantum field, which is really a very deep there's an understanding like an hour video on that, and then a really great meditation to activate and to help you manifest, literally manifest clients and money on the quantum, in the quantum, in
Wow.
the Akashic Records. Yep.
That is incredible. Oh my gosh. And did you just apologize for being so generous to give us 7 classes for $147?
I apologize for being so long-winded about it.
Oh no, don't worry about that. I mean, that's a lot to share. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So everyone, that's a phenomenal deal. 7 high power, high frequency courses with Melissa for $147. And that's just so generous of you. Thank you, Melissa. I'll also have that in the show notes. Amazing. And we're at the end of our time. I just want to thank you so much for this really beautiful conversation. You bring such high energy and high frequency, and you're such a bright light. Thank you, Melissa.
I love you, Waxela, and you have meant a lot to me. Remember the first time we met, I was like, oh yeah, I know you. It was nice to like see you and experience like your connection with everything and all this beautiful things that you're bringing to the world. You are such a gift to the ascension. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And yes, we are such soul sisters or star sisters or however you want to say it. I love you too. And I appreciate you. And I know the Alchemy of Ascension audience is going to just benefit so greatly from this. So thank you. And to all watching and listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate and love you all, and namaste.
Love.